Is it live? Yes, we are now live. We are live on YouTube and Facebook. We're live on Instagram. How's everybody doing? Live at 5 with Keto, Savage, and Lady Savage. Lady.Savage. With our topos. Cheers.
Wow.
Wowzers. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to start this conversation with the discussion of fat adaptation. That rhymed. We'll start this conversation with a discussion of fat adaptation.
All right. Rhyming.
So let's begin this with a simple question. Is being in nutritional ketosis the same thing as being fat adapted? Would you care to answer that?
No, I told you to start. Robert starting this time.
All right, so I get a lot of questions about fat adaptation versus nutritional ketosis. Are they the same thing? So technically, by the book, if you have a 0.5 or greater millimolar count via beta-hydroxybutyrate blood ketones, you are technically in a state of nutritional ketosis. Now, that is not the same thing as being fat adapted. Like Crystal's dad was in town, had not been keto his entire life, and registering 0.5 after what?
Actually, the night before he registered 0.5, he had a bun. A bun with honey butter.
Honey butter bun.
Sorry. Okay, the night before he had a honey butter bun. And then we were like, okay, let's start keto. And so we started keto the next day, and he registered 0.5, and he had not been trying at all.
Okay, so this is a really good example because this happens a lot. He's been keto now for 2.5 weeks, so he's definitely building up his level of fat adaptation. But when he first started, the day after eating a honey butter bun, he was registering 0.5 or greater on the ketone meter, but his level of fat adaptation was obviously zero. Like his body does not know how to use those ketones it's producing. It doesn't know how to tap into its fat stores and effectively use that as a fuel source. So that's not the same thing as being fat adapted. This is why I have a problem with a lot of people that eat a bunch of carbs and then tout it as being metabolically flexible and then test the next day and they have like 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.7 on the ketone meter. It's like that doesn't necessarily mean you're metabolically flexible. That means you have a little bit of blood ketones sourcing through your body, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're higher in levels of fat adaptation. There's always a give and take with everything. So like if you were to increase your level of, like if you were to eat different variety of foods, if you were to have like carbs, proteins, fats, and just kind of hodgepodge of everything, you may be more flexible in that sense, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be optimizing for peak fat oxidation or your ability to get truly fat adapted. Being in a state of nutritional ketosis is simply registering 0.5 on the ketone meter. Does that mean that you're going to be able to tap into your stored body fat and your dietary fat to the best of your ability? No, not at all. The longer you're keto adapted, the more efficient your body becomes at knowing what to do with the fat that you have stored as adipose tissue and the fat that you consume as dietary fat. That's why I'm always a huge advocate for just giving it the time it takes to truly get deeply adapted, because being adapted for 6 months is not the same thing as being adapted for 6 days, and it's not the same thing as being adapted for 6 years. You keep getting better and better and better.
Yeah, you actually feel better and better with each little time that goes on. I would say that it took me when I very first started, probably I felt like it was 3 months before I actually felt like the best, and then I continually feel better and better. And you get more in tune with your body, and when you need more protein, when you need more fat, you just can feel it. Whereas my dad right now, he's just starting and he's feeling good. His energy levels are stable. He's increased his workouts and things like that. He's feeling really good, but he's going to keep feeling better, and he's going to have more anti-inflammatory benefits and all of that as time goes on. So you just keep getting better. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's my little spiel.
That's her little spiel. Look at that neck vein popping.
Get out of here.
Whew. All right, what kind of questions we got? We got Megan East saying Happy Wednesday. What's up? Happy Wednesday to you. Brian says good evening all. Good evening, Brian. How are you, brother?
Hey, from Cincinnati.
Ashley says, Robert and Crystal, it's hard to hit a protein goal exactly. Is it okay to have a protein goal range? Excuse me. And how many grams of protein could that range be? So this totally depends on what your goal is. If you're just trying to like live life, be healthy, then yeah, I mean, your body doesn't care on a 24-hour revolving basis. If your goal is to eat 150 grams of protein and the next day you eat 160 grams of protein, the next day you eat 148 grams of protein, like your body's not keeping tabs on all this and really caring, because it all kind of averages out. However, if you have like a very specific goal, a very finite like time period in which you're supposed to reach that goal, then try and get things dialed in as closely as possible. If you're just trying to live and be healthy and sustain this, then have that window. Like if I'm in an off-season building phase, I just try and make sure I'm eating ample protein to build muscle, but then I'll like go a little bit above that and feel totally fine with it. My range is probably, I don't know, within 20 to 50 grams of protein is probably a good range. But then again, there may be days like in the off season, I might have an extra 150 grams of protein one day.
Yeah. And I would also be curious to make sure that your protein is in the right area, in the right range, because usually when you're supposed to hit a certain amount of protein, usually you're craving it and you want it. So maybe just taking a look at that too and seeing like, am I having too much protein and does my body even need it if I'm not craving it enough to want it?
Yeah, and if you're trying to like sustain and build muscle, then that window can be, I would recommend that window being more in the surplus range than in the deficit range. Like you don't want to have a 50-gram window and then you just consistently be eating 50 grams less than what your body needs, if that makes sense.
Getting some savage education while knocking out a 2-mile walk.
Yeah, buddy.
Could you answer intermittent fasting question? Do I have to break my fast properly, lean protein every time I go 16 hours plus without eating, even if I wasn't intentionally fasting? Thank you. I have never heard that before, but I always break my fast with either like broth or something fatty, because usually like my body doesn't, I mean, a 16-hour fast isn't,
it's like an intermittent fast.
Yeah, that's like a normal day-to-day fast. So I would just have whatever meal you want, which for me would be a mixture of fats and proteins. So no, you don't need to just have lean protein. With our meals, we always suggest that people have an equal or greater fat ratio anyways.
Yeah. I like breaking my intermittent fast with a fatty coffee personally. Brad says, I always tell people I'm working with that it takes about 6 weeks to get fat adapted. Is that fairly accurate? Yeah, I feel like 6 weeks is a pretty good telltale sign. Now, there's probably some correlation that exists in like the longer you've been eating a carbohydrate, heavily processed food diet, the longer it's going to take you to get fat adapted. There's like a point of like that tipping point. But 6 weeks, you should definitely know that you're on the right track. Yeah. And then it just keeps getting better after that.
I'm super excited to actually put out the video Friday with my dad, because I think that this next video will answer a lot of questions and a lot of concerns that I feel like a lot of people have, especially when they have a lot to lose, they start keto. We'll talk about like the scale moving and inches lost and how much over time, how much damage maybe you've done to your body and what's actually happening internally that either is helping you or hindering you from being able to drop that weight quickly or whatever. So I'm really excited to put out this video. But I think that giving yourself 6 weeks and telling yourself I'm going to feel even better in 6 weeks than I will at week 2 is a really great way to go about it, because I think people have this short-term goal. If I don't feel good in 3 weeks, or if I don't feel the best in 3 weeks, if I don't lose this much weight in so many weeks or 1 month, then they sell themselves short and they're going to feel better and better and better. So I would definitely say by 6 weeks, they're going to feel pretty great.
Ashley says, goal is to fight depression and fatigue, weight maintenance. Daily protein is currently 75 grams, mostly sedentary. 75 grams is on the low end for sure.
So if your goal is 75, I would definitely try to hit the 75 or higher. That is a pretty low protein for a lot of people. Yeah, I don't know your size or anything else.
I would figure out what your lean mass is and then at least have a 1-to-1 with that.
Yeah. In fact, he didn't have a first comment, but it says, in fact, I would argue that maintenance calories, one that is more fat adapted, will tend to test lower ketones because more efficient utilization.
Yeah, like when you're first keto, you tend to have higher numbers than after you've been keto for a while because your body becomes more efficient at using those. So they spend less time floating around your bloodstream, and they spend more time getting shuttled into the cells more effectively and efficiently to be used for fuel.
I also have a good one. Metabolic flexibility demands serious carb restriction. Otherwise, you aren't really flexible per lab data. Great thing to discuss.
Knew it like that guy.
I know. That was a really good answer. A lot of people want the quick fix or the fun metabolic flexibility of being able to jump in, jump out whenever they want. Unless you're extremely fat adapted, and I would even say leaning in towards being a certain type of athlete, I don't think metabolic flexibility is a benefit for most people.
My appetite has gone down to 0, and I end up just eating around 1,000 calories at night just to get in some calories. Any advice? You're only eating 1,000 calories a day? That's not good at all. I would definitely ramp that up because 1,000 is just super low for anybody.
I have great advice, actually.
All right.
So, I'm sorry, I'm taking this away.
Hey, I'm normally the one talking. You run with it.
Okay, so, yes, I do have advice. When I very first started keto, I wasn't eating a whole lot. Because so many guts that it hurt to not eat. It was terrible. So the best way for me to get in food, which I don't recommend highly for a lot of other people, but if you are just trying to get the calories in and that's your most important goal right now, I would highly recommend drinking shakes. And I don't recommend that as the best way of getting nutrients in, but you need to get your calories up, and that's the best way I found possible. Add in a little bit of MCT oil, add in some coconut cream, and add in some protein powders, like really good quality protein powders. Just add in different fatty things, even some nut butters, and just try and make yourself a really fatty shake. Even if you have to drink it over the entire course of the morning and make another 1,000-calorie shake and drink that, and that way you can at least get in some calories and work up your appetite. And it's pretty easy to get things down that are drinkable.
Megan says chocolate malt brick is dangerous. I can talk myself into having a whole brick versus the plan for the day and have to refigure out all my macros for the rest of the day.
Agreed.
That's not a bad problem. Make sure you're getting good quality meat sources too.
I know Kelly Hogan and Dr. Berry are pro-carnivore during pregnancy. Have you had clients or seen where keto or zero carb wasn't optimal? I have not ever seen carnivore not be optimal, really. I have seen a high protein carnivore not be optimal, but you can still do carnivore and have a high fat ratio, and that's where I've seen people have the most benefit. Do you agree?
I agree full-heartedly. Kevin says, currently 20 hours into a 24-hour fast. Good stuff. Have I mentioned that the chocolate malt brick is awesome? Well, thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks.
Best of luck with the fast, man. Only a few more hours.
Love you guys.
On
thank you.
fire today, Crystal.
Woo. Oh, booyah. On fire. Okay. Love you guys. Thanks so much for all the education and info. I do appreciate everything you both do. Thank you very much.
You got one?
Okay. Is it beneficial when building muscle to have more protein on workout days and less on off days? You may have said this already and I missed it. Sorry.
All right.
It's a great question.
That is a really good question. I personally recommend just keeping that equal. Like I don't ever manipulate my macros based off of whether it's a training day or an off day, because in that context, it all kind of averages together. I mean, I'm doing like an 8-day cycle. In that 8-day cycle, I'm training 6 days a week with resistance weights, but then I'm also running and doing some form of cardio every single day. So rather than try and manipulate my food based off of whether it's an off day or train day, I just eat adequate calories every day, and my body fuels, and that fuels my body. I missed this one earlier. Hello, love you guys. Learned so much from you. Well, thank you, and we love you too.
Is fat adaptation best reached with keeping total carbs super low or fat intake high?
Both. So this is a really good question by Keto Culinary Stuff. By the way, man, we're going to work on your recipe either this week or next week. One or the other. So this is a great question. Should you keep carbs low or fat high? Well, I would definitely keep carbs low, whether you're fat adapted or not, because there's not really any benefit to having carbs high. And then as far as the fat high question, what I have found is that when you're first starting the keto diet, you're going to be better off with a higher fat ratio. A lot of people say, a lot of people get into keto because they want to lose weight. And they come into keto and they start Googling on the internet and they're like, oh, if you have fat to lose, don't eat dietary fat.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that if you don't eat dietary fat, your body doesn't really have that much of a reason to learn how to use its stored fat because it hasn't really ever had that much dietary fat in a surplus before. So give it that dietary fat, let it adapt to using fat, then it's going to become more efficient at tapping into your stored fat, and then you can probably increase the protein ratio relative to the fat. That's a lot of words, kind of confusing, probably spoken really fastly. But I recommend a higher fat ratio to begin with, and then once you become more adapted, you can play around with increasing your protein ratio, and then you can kind of figure out what you respond best to as an individual. But I don't ever really recommend starting keto at a very low fat ratio. Where was it?
That's a really good one. Oh wait, where'd it go?
If I eat more than 800 calories, I don't lose. Any suggestions?
Eat more food.
Yeah.
Let your body recover. Let your metabolism recover. Gain 5 pounds if you need to. And then you can cut your calories slowly back down and start losing weight again. But you're not going to lose, and you're going to do so much damage to your body if you do not increase your today. Twice. 2 different clients of mine, back to back, both sent me messages saying, I cannot believe how much food I'm able to eat right now and not gain weight. And the other one said, I can't believe how much food you have me eating and I'm still losing weight. So increasing your calories is an okay thing to do. You need to make sure that your body is healthy and that you're doing the right thing for your body. Your body's not losing any more fat because it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel comfortable because you're under eating.
I could add on to that, but she did a great job, so I'm just going to let her roll with it.
Okay.
Great idea. Thank you. All right, what did Frida say?
Frida says, becoming fat adapted is probably the best thing I could have done for my health and athletic performance, hands down.
Amen, Frida. All right, so Arlene here. Oops, I missed one. I'll be right back, Arlene. Will fiber capsules affect me negative with keto? So it's going to be a little bit individualistic here. I don't take fiber capsules. I don't really see a reason for taking fiber capsules. You may be trying to keep your total carbs down. Let me know. But I'm assuming you're trying to keep your total carbs down, which is reducing your fiber intake, and you're worried that not having enough fiber is going to make you irregular or some other adverse effect. Let me know if that's the case, but I would recommend just not worrying about the total fiber intake. You know, old conventional wisdom tells us that we need to have a ton of fiber, and you just don't. Like, I'll go through periods of time where I have 0 fiber, and I am totally regular, in case y'all were curious. So you don't have to have a ton of fiber. Like, your digestive system is smart. It will adapt and learn what you're consuming and then respond accordingly.
Thomas Lauer gives totally different fast break advice. You two should chat. Might be an interesting podcast. That would be a really interesting podcast. The one thing I do love about our community is that there are so many different opinions and so many different things that people can bring together. Everyone's body is uniquely made, and so things are going to work better for some people than others. And that's why we all put out our information so that you can kind of gather and test it out on your body. But I do think that would be a really cool podcast.
Yeah, I've been texting with them. We should have to nail down a date.
Yeah.
Arlene says, hard to do carnivore with a host of allergies unless I want to drink tallow. Recently diagnosed with lupus and need it for healing. Trying to lower inflammation and weight gain. Macro advice.
Hard to do carnivore with allergies.
So I'm assuming you have allergies that are not letting you consume other sources of fat, and tallow is your only option that you know of?
Like there's super fatty meats. Like you can do like the pork belly. You can do like high fat like beef, like a ribeye, or even like 75-25 ground beef. You can add tallow. You can add duck fat. You can add lard. You can maybe not.
I'm assuming you have like an allergy to dairy, maybe, and you can't do like a lot of heavy cream and cheeses. But like fatty meats, I mean, you can get some really fatty meats. Like a ribeye is about a 1-to-1, 1 gram of protein for every 1 gram of fat. So I mean, that's a pretty good source of fat right there. Kind of expensive as far as meat options go, but pretty good.
I do think that carnivore is really amazing for lowering your inflammation for sure.
All right. Danny says, I made the beef shank recipes you suggested the other day. It was amazing. I make the Keto Savage Kitchen recipes all the time, too. Macros are always perfect. Well, thank you. Those shanks were pretty good.
Yeah.
Those also buco. You had it.
Oh, yeah. Those were so good. It was so good. I could not believe it. And I'm not really like that kind of meat person, but it was so good. Had another PR Arms Day.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Ashley says, you guys are the greatest. I weigh 107 pounds and have 21% body fat. Your current macro calculator puts me 80 grams of protein, but I start feeling lethargic when it's that high. So I've been doing 75 grams, but it's hard to get that exact number. So I would probably just like jump on a call and like dive super deep into figuring out what actual macrograms I would recommend, because a calculator only gives you starting point. I mean, no calculator on any website is gold, and if anybody says otherwise, they're wrong. But that's pretty low. I mean, you might want to bump that up. Maybe you're just not consuming enough total calories, and that's why your energy is low. So I would try and ramping up total calories, have a higher fat ratio, see kind of what your body's doing there, but try just more food in general. Ashley or Arlene, says 5'5", 125 pounds. I've gained an unhealthy weight, 15 pounds, and holding water. Don't want to go over on protein, but I don't want to drink tallow or suet. Yes, I would just do your cuts. Like, it's going to be really hard to get the fat in if you're eating like 85 or 93.7 ground beef. But if you're doing like an 80-20 or 75-25, like the U.S. Wellness Meats has a 75-25 grass-fed ground beef, and that's like my staple. I love that stuff. Also, if you're gonna have eggs or something like that, to kind of soak up maybe some of the fat, that might be a really good option. And then if there are some, I know Maria Emmerich has a carnivore cookbook, and I think there are like some carnivore like breads that I think that they make out of like egg whites probably. I know the Keto Row, Jonathan Shane, he has made like a carnivore, what was that? Like, it was like I don't know, but it looks gross when you're making it. It looks
gross when you're making it, but you're actually like grounding up, grinding up ground
pork
beef
and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. And
it's pretty good though.
It was carnivore, and it was like it ended up baking like a bread. So I would definitely look up something like that where it might be able to soak up some of the fat that you aren't wanting to drink, because of course, who would want to drink that? Because that's gross.
Yeah. Fiber capsules, taking them for health, or getting that full filling instead of binging on junk food, not taking for bowel movements necessarily. So one thing you could do that I would recommend over the capsules, if you're just wanting to have more volume, is like a Miracle Rice, Miracle Noodle combination. Like it's basically it's made from konjac root fiber, and it's basically just water. I mean, it's a fiber, but it retains fluid. It's like 97% water by weight. And you could have that as a filler, and that's not really going to have any adverse effects on you.
I do have one thing to say. If you are using it to get that full filling, you're also the same person that mentioned that you needed to get in more food because you were only eating so much. So maybe actually taking a step back from so much of the fiber capsules might be beneficial for you getting in more food, and just choosing a better type of food rather than taking the capsules, I think would be really beneficial.
This is a good one. Kevin says, when might we hear more about your experience with the Nespresso machine you invested in?
We should do a video on it.
So Kevin, we love the Nespresso machine.
Yeah.
It's super easy. I will say this though, the milk frother itself on that specific model isn't anything to write home about. I'm not a huge fan of the milk frother, but we have a standalone separate frother which I use. So I'll use that frother with that Nespresso machine, and that's pretty much the way to go. Like, it's got a nice like foam cap on there like you want to get with an Americano. It's way better than a Keurig, and it's a lot easier than doing like a normal drip press or something like that.
I do feel like if you like lattes, like maybe like a nut milk latte, that steamer would be good, but it just steams the cream kind of weird and doesn't get all of it. So then you have to like end up pouring it. It's kind of weird, but I do like the Nespresso machine. Can I read
Maria's
Jonathan's?
book is excellent. Yes, read Jonathan's.
Okay. I can attest to what Anthony said. keto helped with a lot when I first started. However, it wasn't until Robert put me in 80% fat with my first prep did I see changes. My shoulder pain was gone, etc.
So I like to hear, man.
While increasing your calories, should you kick it up a notch at the gym?
It kind of depends. I mean, I always recommend going as hard in the gym as you can, but like if you're trying to, so yes, always kick it up a notch in the gym, but don't do it necessarily just because you're increasing calories. Like try to increase calories to see what your individual caloric threshold is, what your metabolic threshold is, and if you're trying to put on muscle, then you're going to want to have a surplus of food to make building more lean tissue more efficient. So yeah, I guess full circle, you're always going to be good increasing the intensity a little bit, as long as you're not overtraining or anything like that.
Rachel says, "Hi, best friends. I miss you."
What's up? We're talking about her
too.
milk frother just a minute ago.
Oh yeah.
Oh great. I'll look into that. Definitely give that a look.
I have eaten before the konjac noodles. I felt bloated for 3 days. Why? Yes, same.
It takes a little while for it to get through you. It can take a little while to get through you.
If you actually look at it, the majority of what it is water. So you're probably going to hold on to some of that water, especially if you already not drinking as much water. You're not going to flush it out as quickly. But a lot of what it is fiber and water. So it's likely that you're going to take a little bit to get through it. Some people, it'll just run right through them. But people like me, you'll hold a lot of water for several days. So that's very normal. But you should just know that and be aware that maybe the scale's going to go up or maybe you'll be a little bit bloated in the belly.
Yeah.
Nespresso is fire.
Yes, it is. He's the one that recommended the Nespresso.
Oh, that's funny.
Very good recommendation. All right, so we made it through all the questions. Any more questions we have now or not?
Next week. Any questions we have for next week?
Any more questions for next week? So the next person that submits a question, that's what we'll talk about next week on the Live at 5, right?
Live at 5. We're gonna have we're actually gonna have the
Golden Brick winner.
Golden Brick winner, and they're actually bringing someone with them.
Yeah, his brother.
Yeah, I didn't know if we were sharing that they were even coming yet.
Yeah.
But I forgot we made a post about it. He's bringing his brother, so it'll be a grand old time. So I don't know. I guess if you guys are not having fun, then I'll be doing this by myself.
No, we'll all be having fun. The Golden Brick winners are coming into town. Once you are further along and on keto for a while, do you still take electrolytes?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yes. You probably don't need to take.
That's next week.
That's the next week?
That's what we said.
All right.
I mean, we can answer it now, but.
All right. Well, we'll ask that. The next one's good, too.
Actually, let's talk about electrolytes now, and we'll talk about the therapeutic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once you're further along on keto and for a while, once you're further along and on keto for a while, do you still take electrolytes? Yes, I always take electrolytes. You probably don't need to take as many electrolytes as when you first start keto, because when you first start keto, like everything's getting flushed out. You're peeing a lot more. Like her dad was peeing like freaking.
It was crazy.
every 20 minutes when you first started. So because you're peeing a lot more, you're flushing out all of your electrolytes. Once your body equalizes, you're not dispelling or expelling rather all those fluids, so you retain onto this more. So you don't have to take as many electrolytes. You still want to make sure you're getting a solid foundation. So I still take sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium every day. You're getting a lot of that from your food, and it also depends on kind of what your training and lifestyle is like. Like if you're sweating a lot, if you're living in an environment where it's super humid, like it is here in Arkansas, and we're sweating all the time, then we'll take more electrolytes. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't really supplement my electrolytes. I use a lot of Redmond's Real Salt. But the other day I started having, I got a foot cramp. And so I just took a thing of electrolytes and realized, okay, it's definitely a lot more humid here. I'm sweating a lot more. So maybe I should take a little bit more on a regular basis. But all winter long, I think I went without adding in any other electrolytes other than the salt. And then just the rest of it from my food.
Yes. All right. So this is the question we're going to ask next week. Do you believe in therapeutic ketones? So we're going to talk about that next week. But before I get off, Kevin also said, Robert, the shout out Sunday section of emails are the best. Genuine. It reminds me to thank others who make a difference in our lives. Well, thank you so much for reading the newsletter, Kevin. I appreciate you more than you know.
Okay, this one is not a keto question or anything, but I feel like we should at least say something.
Okay, say something.
Okay, so this one says, hello guys, off topic, but is it wrong to be gay? My parents hate me for who I am. I'm really depressed now and have been exercising more, but I'm still depressed. Okay, first of all, I love every human. I don't care what you are, who you are, whatever. Your parents chose to have you, and they should love you for who you are as an individual. And we don't talk about a lot of this type of stuff just because it's not really what we are.
It's not our specialty.
Yeah, it's not our specialty. It's not, but I love you, and you are an amazing person, and you should just continue to live your life to the best of your ability, doing what you know is right and doing what you love to do, and don't think twice about what other people think about you, because it's not their life. So you keep doing you, and with the depression, keep going, keep pushing, keep exercising, eat a really good, nutritious diet, and lift your mind and your spirit up, and give yourself daily affirmations and tell yourself how freaking amazing you are, because you are, as an individual, of who you are and what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Boom.
Boom.
Don't let anyone get you down. And if you get down, then just message me and I'll lift you right back up.
There you go. There you go. I can't beat ending on that. So that's what we're going to do. We love all y'all. We'll see you all next week. And kill it. Be savage. Have a great one and talk soon.
Bye-bye.